Welcome back, it's Javier.
And Adela, and today we're going to be reviewing Rob Zombie's 3 from Hell.
Now, for those of you who do not know what 3 from Hell is, it is a sequel movie. A sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses and
The Devil's Rejects.
Yeah. Did we need this sequel, first of all?
No.
No. So supposedly this movie takes place after the events of The Devil's Rejects. How is that possible? I don't know. For those of you who have seen The Devil's Rejects, and for those of you who haven't seen that, spoiler alert, the characters in this movie die at the end.
Yeah.
In a very violent shootout against the police.
Yeah, like there's no way they could have survived that. But obviously, they wrote it to where they did somehow survive, and so that they can make this movie.
Yeah, this is honestly a movie, looking at all the fan base of the people who love The Devil's Rejects, a lot of people agree that this movie was not a necessary movie that needed to be made.
No.
The Devil's Rejects should have been a movie that should have just,
It should have just been over.
Yeah.
It should have just been done.
And honestly, watching this movie, there are so many flaws with this movie. And I have a lot of issues with the movie, starting from, the first minute of the movie. The first minute of the movie is probably what made me not like this movie the most. The fact that these people from the Firefly family are made out to be, some kind of martyrs, good people. They weren't too bad. Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a lot of, Manson family vibes in this movie, for sure. But I think there always kind of has been.
Yeah.
But, especially with this one, it's kind of crazy.
Probably, the first 30 minutes of the movie feel like a Rob Zombie movie. The rest of the movie is very, very, very messy. It's just a big mess of a movie. It goes from, being, your typical Rob Zombie, torture porn kind of movie to, some weird action movie in, Mexico. Yeah. It's just a very muddy movie. The plot is muddy. Nothing in this movie makes sense. Mm-mm. I think one of the biggest, downfalls of this movie is not having, Sid Haig's Captain Spaulding in this movie. For those of you who know that he got sick, before this movie even went into production. So I honestly feel like him being sick should have been an omen to begin with, not to continue on with this movie.
Yeah.
Because, a character like that can't be replaced, first of all, with this movie. And the new character they kind of replaced him with in this movie
it's just dumb.
Yeah, he kind of doesn't fit in with his family, and he doesn't have the Firefly family kind of vibes to him.
Alright, yeah, so basically, we obviously don't want to give spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen this movie yet. Basically, the whole movie takes place 15 years after The Devil's Rejects ends. They do, write it to where that they survive the shootout at the end, and they end up in prison, and then a bunch of crazy shit happens from there, and they end up in Mexico. But, yeah, so that's basically the plot of the movie. Is a lot of it follows them in prison, and then shit happens, and obviously they don't stay in prison. And there's just a lot of mess in between. It's just...
Baby Firefly, which is Sherry Moon's character in this movie, they kind of made her kind of an over-the-top kind of character in this movie. I mean, I know all the characters in this trilogy of movies are all over the top, but another thing that kind of made this movie hard to watch was her character specifically. I think they kind of wrote her...
She was just extra insane, and it was just got to the point where it was just annoying. It's just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, honestly, watching this movie, we kind of were waiting for the movie to end already. And you know what you're getting into watching a Rob Zombie movie, but this movie was literally mental torture for us to kind of get through.
Yeah, it's just bad. What you expect from a Rob Zombie movie. We went in with expectations.
Yeah.
For a Rob Zombie movie, and it just fell.
And yeah, honestly, people who are complaining about Rob Zombie's version of Halloween, give this movie another watch. This is honestly his worst movie ever made. And honestly, people who complain about movies like 31 and The Lords of Salem,
which are both great movies and pale in comparison to this. This is just lackluster and just should never have existed.
This is honestly a movie, and I will keep saying this again and again, it never needed to be made. There was no room at the end of The Devil's Rejects for a sequel. Yeah, it's just a very, like I said, maybe like the first 30 minutes of this movie are probably what feels like a Rob Zombie movie. You kind of got like a little bit of torture sequences, and then after that, it all goes downhill pretty much.
Yeah, it's just, and there's so many plot holes. Like I said, we want this to be a spoiler-free review, but there's so many plot holes, and if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's just so many little things that just don't make sense, that don't add up, that are not what realistically would happen. And it's just nonsense. It's very frustrating. And I know that movies aren't supposed to be an exact copy of reality, but there's just so many like little plot holes that shouldn't exist in this movie.
Honestly, I mean, this only cost like about $18 on 4K. It was honestly a little bit cheaper than the Blu-ray, which is ultimately why we got it. But I would have been fine probably not even watching this movie at all.
Mm-hmm.
I had read reviews already before watching this movie, and I knew that this movie wasn't going to be so great, but this movie literally wasn't great. And people talk about the Hellraiser sequels being like really terrible compared to the first one. This is honestly the worst sequel I've ever seen in my life.
It's so bad. 0 stars.
Yeah, I expected a lot more coming, watching a Rob Zombie movie. He's one of my favorite horror writers and directors. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what he was thinking with this movie.
We went into this with very high expectations. We looked for it on multiple shopping trips, and we finally found it, and we were able to buy it, and we were like really looking forward to it. We had high expectations, high hopes, and it just sucked.
Yeah, so for anybody who's looking into watching these movies, honestly, skip the third one. You're fine with just the first 2 movies. Mm-hmm. And, for anybody who has seen the first 2 movies and has not seen 3 from Hell, our personal recommendation, just don't watch this movie. This movie will kind of ruin the other 2 for you.
Yeah, it's honestly just not good. That's really all we can say about it. It's just not good.
Yeah, there wasn't nothing really positive about this movie. So many flaws in this movie, and again, if you're interested in watching it, you'll watch at your own risk. You'll see what we're talking about.
Yeah, obviously watch it, form your own opinions. Whatever, these are just our opinions, but it sucks. And it would have just been better off as just 2 movies and not a trilogy. Yeah, honestly, not worth the buy on 4K. If you're gonna watch it, just rent it. Yeah. Or borrow it from someone.
Just borrow it.
Something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
yeah,
that's really all we can say.
If you have seen this movie, of course, let us know down below in the comments what you thought of this movie.
Did you love it? Did you hate it like we did? Let us know your thoughts down below for sure. You'll want to go over and follow both of us on Instagram. I'll have those linked somewhere on the screen and in the box down below. All right, like this video before you go. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already and ring the bell so you know about our future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.